Good day. My name is David Wild, and this is the second part of a three-part lecture on Chapter 7 on managerial decision making from Connect Master Management 2.0. Let's look at the process of rational decision making. For a problem that is unusual or complex, a decision maker may not be able to rely on experience or standard practices and procedures to reach a conclusion about the best choice for addressing the problem. Instead, a rational decision-making approach is used. As summarized in Figure 1, which you can see on your screen, the rational decision-making approach involves thoughtful analysis using a series of steps that are triggered when the decision maker notices a discrepancy between some desired state and the current state. The process of rational decision making relies on the logical and objective analysis of problems and other considerations to make choices between alternatives that may seem plausible. Now, we'll talk about the 5 steps of the rational decision-making model. The first step is to identify the problem, which identify the problem. The first step to solving a problem using the rational approach is to identify the problem to which the discrepancy can be attributed. Here, the decision maker needs to work through the various symptoms to get as close to the underlying cause as possible. Identify the decision criteria. The second step is to identify the decision criteria. This means the decision maker needs to explicitly consider what an effective decision will and will not involve. The decision criteria should, of course, center on the problem. However, it should also recognize that potential solutions to the problem may have unintended consequences, and thus other important goals and values are important to identify and consider. Develop a list of plausible solutions. The third step is to develop a list of plausible solutions. The solutions can come from a range of sources, but the key here is to identify ideas that could potentially solve the problem. Evaluating plausible solutions is the fourth step of the rational decision-making process. This involves working through the possible solutions identified in Step 3 based on the criteria identified in Step 2 of the process. Finally, the fifth step of the rational decision-making process is to implement and monitor the solution. The decision maker needs to put into place the solution and monitor the situation to make sure the problem is being solved and that there are no unintended consequences. We purposely referred to this step as the fifth step rather than the final step because if the solution is not working out as intended, or if there remains a discrepancy between the desired state and the current state, the decision maker needs to return to an earlier step in the process. So in summary, in talking about the process of rational decision making, the rational approach to decision making involves thoughtful analysis using a series of 5 steps. Number 1, identify the problem. Number 2, identify decision criteria. Number 3, develop a list of plausible solutions. Fourth, evaluate the plausible solutions. And fifth, and lastly, implement and monitor the solution. Although the use of intuition derived from expertise might result in timely program decisions, managers often face non-programmed decisions that require a rational approach involving these 5 steps. Decision-making styles. A manager's ability to make effective decisions hinges on a wide variety of issues. Therefore, it is important for a student of management to understand there are different styles of decision-making a manager may use, and the appropriateness of each style depends on the situation at hand. The research of Victor Vroom and his colleagues has identified at least 5 major styles of decision-making. We explore each of these 5 decision-making styles, which are depicted in Figure 2, which you can see on your screen. These 5 decision-making styles are autocratic, consult individually, consult the group, facilitative, and finally, the delegative decision-making style. Now, let's talk about the 5 different decision-making styles. First, managers who make decisions alone are using the autocratic decision-making style. A manager using this style might seek information pertaining to a problem from subordinates. However, subordinates are generally not asked to provide opinions or recommendations about potential solutions taken into account in the manager's final decision. The second style is consult individually. When managers use a consult individually decision-making style, they present the problem and seek potential solutions from subordinates individually. That is, not in a group setting where the subordinates are together. After obtaining enough input from subordinates, the manager makes the final decision. The consult the group decision-making style is quite similar to the consult individually decision-making style, with one big exception. Rather than a manager presenting the problem and seeking solutions from subordinates individually, the manager does so with subordinates in a group setting. The fourth style is facilitative. A manager who uses a facilitative decision-making style shares the problems with the group and then works with the group to reach a consensus on the final decision. The facilitative style differs from the styles we have discussed so far in that the manager does not have complete control over the final decision. Finally, there is the delegative style. A manager who uses a delegative decision-making style passes responsibility for making the final decision to the subordinates. With this style, the manager minimizes involvement in the decision-making process and gives up control of the decision. Finally, let's talk about the Vroom-Yetton-Yago time-driven model of decision-making. With knowledge that there are 5 different decision-making styles, the natural question is which style should a manager use in a given situation? The Vroom-Yetton-Yago time-driven model of decision-making styles suggests there are 7 features that should be taken into account when choosing a decision-making style for a problem. The model is referred to as the time-driven model because it focuses more on the goal of making good decisions in a timely manner, rather than in providing opportunities for subordinates to get involved in the decision-making process to develop their knowledge and skills. It is probably easiest to think of the 7 features of the decision-making situations in terms of the following questions to which managers can respond with a simple yes or no. First, is the outcome of the decision important to the manager's unit or organization? Secondly, is it important that subordinates are committed to or buy into the decision? Third, does the manager have expertise in relation to the problem? Fourth, will subordinates be committed to the decision if made by the manager? Fifthly, do subordinates support unit goals related to the problem? Sixth, do the subordinates have expertise related to the problem? And finally, number 7, are the subordinates capable of working together to solve the problem? And for reference, you can see the full exposition of this model in Figure 3 from your textbook. Although studies reveal evidence that the Vroom-Yetton-Yago time-driven model provides a sound basis for choosing a decision-making style, one study indicates a 68% success rate. There are a couple of caveats to keep in mind when trying to apply it. First, it is sometimes very difficult to characterize the situation with a simple yes or no. In other words, there are cases where the manager's answer to one or more of the questions about the situation is more neutral. Second, the model looks somewhat complicated and difficult to apply in settings where a manager might not have a lot of time to decide which style of decision making to employ. If you take a look at figure 3 from the text, you'll see that observation is probably quite astute and correct. So, in summary, talking about decision making styles, there are 5 styles of decision making that differ in terms of how much subordinates are involved in the process: the autocratic style, the consult individually style, the consult the group style, the facilitative style, and the delegative style. The Vroom-Yeton-Yago time-driven model describes how the choice of which decision-making style to use depends on contingencies, such as the importance of the problem, the degree to which subordinates have expertise related to the problem, and whether subordinates are capable of working with one another. That ends the second part of the lecture on managerial decision-making.